Cool.
Hello and a very good morning to you. Thank you very much for coming in again to another session of Streaming School. So we are lucky as ever to have a bunch of fine teachers who have made a load of lessons for us, and they're going to be taking us through a range of items throughout the day. And we're going to start the day, as we always do, with the ever-inspiring and wonderful Mr. Action Jackson. A very good morning to you, Action. How are you today?
I am doing amazing as always. Thank you so much, Leon.
Good. Today's the first real day for most people. This is the first day people are like, right, we actually have to do some home learning today.
Honestly.
But you're lucky because you still haven't got one's just around the corner, right, Action?
What's that, sorry?
Your first little one's right around the corner. You haven't got a teenager tearing up the house.
Any day now, ready to drop.
Congratulations. Nisha, I was telling him, as soon as that happens, it won't be Mr. Happiness anymore, that's for sure. It'll be Mr. Nappiness.
I'm going to need a dose of my own motivation.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, I hope we can do for you what you've done for us, Action. So, the floor is yours, as they say. Please enjoy it and please get inspiring the nation. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, good morning, everyone. This is Action Jackson, a resident motivational speaker here at Streaming School. The free Streaming School is just an amazing platform that allows you to get the education that you need in this season and beyond. So I'm so excited today. If you've never joined us, my name is Action Jackson. I'm the UK Ambassador for Happiness. I am happy 365. So happy that I actually released a single earlier this year called Happy 365. It's all about happiness, because I believe that happiness is the fuel for success. The happier you are, the more you feel like doing. Have you noticed that? And when you don't feel like doing something, you don't do anything. But we need to take action. So with that said, I always start with music. Music for me is very important. And pumping it up is one of the ways I get things going. Music. I hope you're ready for me. I've got this tune in the background. I just want you to do a punching exercise for me. Just like that. You don't have to do much. Yeah? Come on now. It's the early morning party. Come on. Welcome to the Streaming School. 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 Okay, DJ Action Jackson. Welcome to the Streaming School. Welcome. Where you at? Welcome to the Streaming School. Welcome to the Streaming School. Welcome to the. You're probably thinking, what have I just tuned into? Well, you've just tuned into something that's going to inspire you. That's how I start my day. Energize myself, take myself into a different mental space. But very quickly, I'm going to share my screen because I want to share with you some things that's going to really help you today. What is the thinking behind? There we go. Screen sharing. Wonderful. So the question I'm going to ask you is, you're probably asking me that same question, is what is the thinking behind all that I'm doing? Well, the thinking behind it is this: your thoughts always going to affect your emotions. Like I said, I'm the UK Ambassador for Happiness, ready to rock and roll. I am amazing is a very powerful mantra. Many people, when I get them to say this, they feel funny. I don't think I'm amazing. Well, it's not who you think you are, it's who you are capable of being. When you focus on who you're capable of being, you see such greatness within you. So me doing all that dance move is to increase your emotions so you can tap into the best parts of you. Very quickly, I always start with this foundation. If you will, you know me, this is my foundation: thoughts. Thoughts affect emotions. Emotions affect your actions, and your actions affect your results. So you must protect your thoughts at all costs. Be careful what you watch. I even go as far as be careful the kind of films you watch, because the films you watch can actually reinforce the belief systems you have about yourself. I'm a big basketball fan. I love Michael Jordan. I grew up in Michael Jordan. And Netflix just released, I think, 10 episodes of Michael Jordan's journey. So I'm going to be watching that. And as I'm watching that, I'm learning about greatness. I'm learning about determination. I'm learning about focus, which changes my emotions, changes my actions, which then hopefully changes my results. So be very careful what you feed your mind on a day-to-day basis. That's why I don't watch the news too much. Once I see the headlines, I say to people, be very careful. The news can inform you, but don't stay long for it to deform you. Okay? News can inform, but if you take on too much, it can deform. So be very careful what you are thinking. You are in charge of your thoughts. You are in charge of your thoughts. Very, very important. When you understand that, you can understand a lot. Now, today I really want to look at this particular screen here. One of the most important things I've learned about life is not giving up. And I realize that when we give up on goals, when we give up on our dreams, it affects us. This particular clip, you've probably seen this online. It says, first comes the dream, then comes the struggle, then there is victory. The problem is, most people give up during the struggle, never knowing how close they were to victory. The only way you'll fail is if you quit. Never, 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 never quit. As you're watching this, I want to encourage you. I don't know where you are in your life. I don't know what challenges you're having to face. But I guarantee you, if you keep on fighting, you keep on pushing, you're going to get some level of breakthrough. You might be thinking, I've tried so many times, I don't understand this subject. Or I've tried to be positive, it's not working. Don't worry. So long as you know in your hearts of hearts that this is possible, you will make it through. Rome wasn't built in a day. There are many people who have tried to make it and failed along the way, but because they got back up again and gave it one last try, they saw breakthrough. My question to you today is this. Is there something you've given up on that you need to pick back up again? It might be some of the subjects we're covering here at Free Streaming School. I don't understand that. How about you come back and try again? See, I say to people, try at least 10 times before you give up. And after that, try one more time. You never know. You can hit the jackpot. But the one thing I don't want you to do is give up. Life is tough at the moment, I know, but tough situations, boom, builds tough people. And you're a tough person, but you just don't know it yet. Don't give up. My message to you today is don't give up no matter what. You're going to get scared. You're going to feel frustrated. You're going to feel like, what's the point? That's when I need you to dig deep, to think about your why. Why are you doing this? Don't give up. That's my key message to you today. And what are the ways that you can actually not give up? Number one, find the friends who are going to help you and say, hey, I'm working on this goal and I feel like giving up. Can you help me stay focused? That's one thing you can do. I find that friends really help. This morning, as I finished my morning meditation, my friend called me and we started talking. And as we were talking, he was inspiring me and I was inspiring him. There were certain things I've been working on, I felt like giving up on. I can feel myself almost giving up. But he's like, nah, brother, let's keep going. Do you have that kind of friend in your life? Someone who can push you so that you don't give up. That's my key message for you today. You can't afford to give up. Find that friend, keep on pushing, keep on moving. And before you know it, you get the breakthrough that you want. All right? So to wrap up, I just want you to just vibe with me. Vibe with me. Come on, vibe with me. Vibe with me. Hey, here we go. I am amazing. Come on, feel the vibe. Say, I am amazing. Bounce, bounce. Say, I am amazing. Bounce, bounce. Say, I am amazing. That's my message to you today here at Streaming School. Whatever you do, please, please, please do not give up. Over to you guys.
Thank you so much, Action Buddy. Really, really appreciate it. And I think you can take some of that message, not giving up today, about with the parents. I'm already getting text messages just being like, how do I be a teacher in 10 minutes? I'm like, yes. It's like, you just got to give up on that one. Have a great day, buddy. We'll see you a little later on.
Take care.
Much love. How are you, Nish? Very good morning.
I'm good. Good morning.
Yeah, it's good. Like literally just got the first text message of someone saying, what does it teachers do again? We're like, yeah, now you appreciate us. Now you appreciate us.
Exactly.
It's interesting though, like about the when he said that a couple of times, the people in your life, you know, and who you can have conversations with about different stuff. I think that's hugely important.
Yeah.
Yeah. But right, without further ado, we'll be moving across to the next session, the next lesson. Nish really wanted to engage in that conversation, so I'm going to just jump over screens. So the first lesson we have for you today are 4 lessons. What have we got lined up today? We've got media to start with now, then we've got
PE, and then science, and then Spanish.
PE, science, Spanish. All right, great. It's great. It's a full day. So we're going to start off today with one of the rare occasions on the free streaming school. We're going to start with a pre-recorded lesson just because as schools have gone back, one of the teachers who teaches our media classes, he's got some in-school responsibilities, but he's kindly taken the effort to record a whole lesson for us. The rest of the day is completely live. So if you do want to interact and send in questions on Facebook or Google or Twitch, please feel free to. But for now, please enjoy the first of today's lessons, which is going to be our media studies. Now, Nish, where can people find stuff if they haven't got there before, if they haven't managed to find, if this is the first time tuning in?
On Facebook and YouTube, there are all the videos you can catch up on. And they do play live on Twitch as well. But for catch up, it's definitely Facebook and YouTube. They're the easiest places to find all our videos with all our resources.
Thank you. Brilliant. So right now hit 10 o'clock, so we're right on time. So here is Mr. Matthew Murphy kindly recording a media studies GCSE lessons. I think this is his 7th, so please go back through the rest and follow through.
Good morning, everybody. I hope this day finds you well. Welcome back to another media stream here on GCSE Streaming School. Today we're going to be looking at another theoretical underpinning of media studies and answering some questions which have probably occurred to you previously, but we're going to be looking at some of the theoretical underpinnings about this particular question. Why do people watch specific media products, or why do they consume them, not necessarily watch them? Why do they play Mario Kart, or what do people get out of watching EastEnders or playing Fortnite? What is it that motivates people to consume the media that they do? What do people do with the media that they consume? What is it that's driving audiences? And it goes beyond. We're going to focus on the ways that audiences benefit from any kind of media text beyond just its content, because obviously that first question on the screen there, why do people watch X, Y, and Z, can be answered very simply by just saying, I enjoy it, which is true up to a point. There are other things to bear in mind as well, though, as we'll see today. So fundamentally, a person's needs influence how they respond to a given media product. So people tend to gravitate towards certain media products, certain media texts, dependent on the underlying need that they have to be fulfilled at that point. So taking a case in point, let's say, for instance, that at some point in the last few weeks, you've been bored, highly likely, I'm sure. In order to alleviate that boredom, or if you do a thought experiment for a moment and imagine that yourself in future are going to be bored, what media texts are you going to gravitate towards? So just take 10 seconds to think about that. So that wasn't quite 10 seconds, apologies. However, I would be willing to guess that it would be a different response if I asked you, if you were stressed out instead of being bored, if you were stressed out, what media products would you choose to consume then? Would they be the same? And I suspect not, because the need that you have at that point is different, so it influences the media that you choose to consume. And this is what's driving audiences. This is what the makers of media products need to be aware of, so that they can design products which are going to meet the needs of a wide range of different audiences. Understanding the needs of the audience means that you're able to create better media products. Simple as that. So what we've been talking about is essentially the theoretical underpinnings of something called the uses and gratifications theory. So those two names on the screen there, Blumler and Katz, two academics who in 1974 codified this theory as the uses and gratifications theory. because basically for the last two minutes or so, we've been talking about the use that audiences get out of the media products that they consume. So gratification is a tricky word, so I just want to go off at a tangent slightly, just to be absolutely sure that we're okay with what that word means. So we can see here that gratification, two possible meanings: pleasure, especially when gained from the satisfaction of a desire or a need, and a source of pleasure. So gratification can mean those two different words, because it may not be a word that you use in everyday speech. So in media terms, gratification can come from a range of different places. Obviously, the most obvious one, the one that we were talking about right at the start, is the content of the program. The gratification that I get from watching a soap opera is because I like the content in it. I like the narratives. I like the characters. I like what happens in the show, for instance. Sticking with soap operas, familiarity can be a huge influence in terms of bringing people to a particular media text. Soap operas obviously use this very wisely in that the audience begins to develop an almost personal relationship with certain characters because they're there week in, week out in different circumstances, different storylines, but it's the same host of characters. If we take it's not a soap opera, but obviously the familiarity that we feel with the four characters, so 5 characters in Friends, is all about the familiarity that we feel with those particular characters. So obviously we could say that that's one of the gratifications that people get out of a show like Friends. Not only is the content of it funny, we hope, but also there's a gratification that comes from the familiarity that we have with these characters. And general exposure to the media can also be gratification. By that I mean the different so the prevailing types of media products that there are at that point. So if there's any particular time where there's a lot of game shows coming out, for instance, then people might get gratification because they suddenly are exposed to lots of the same sorts of product. So we've got lots of kind of celebrity kind of game show type shows at the moment on broadcast TV, and other kind of episodic long form TV shows. I'm thinking like Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, etc., etc., etc. Things that take a huge number of episodes to tell a very large story. So the exposure that we have as an audience to certain types of products can make us more likely to consume more of them. So these are all the things that Blumler and Katz refer to as gratifications. So what they did to help all of us is that they distilled all of what we've been talking about down to 4 different points. So the 4 points that we can think of when we think about Blumler and Katz's uses and gratifications theory are these. So one of the uses and gratifications that an audience gets from a media product is diversion. It allows them, by consuming this media text, it diverts them away from everyday issues. So if we go back to that product you were thinking about when you were, if I'm going to be bored, what media am I going to consume? That may have been your motivation, the need for diversion. So Blumler and Katz say that that is one particular way that an audience uses or gets gratification from a media product: diversion. Personal relationships. So when we were talking about soaps, this is very much in keeping with that, using the media for interaction. So we begin to feel like we have a personal relationship with people that we see in the media. In some instances, it can even substitute for that human interaction. So if there's a person that lives on their own, their only social interaction may only be with people that they see through the media. So that could be another one. Now, could it be that somebody watches or consumes a piece of media for both of those reasons at once? Yes, absolutely, it can be. These are not, it's not a case that only one of these uses or gratifications is operating at any one time in the minds of the audience. They're happening all at any one time. So, personal identity. So we identify with the characters that we see in the product. So for instance, somebody might watch an action film because they personally identify with the character of the hero. It doesn't have to be that they identify completely with them. It could be about aspiration. We might identify with the character of James Bond on the screen because we wish that we were more like. We wish that we could identify more with that character. In terms of personal identity, the audience might wish that they were more like that character, and that is the use or the gratification that they get from that particular product. Again, a James Bond film may also offer diversion away from everyday issues, remembering that more than one of these uses and gratifications can happen at any one time. And point 4, surveillance. Now, if I think about the connotation of that word, surveillance, it can have a very negative connotation. For instance, kind of spying on people, and generally negative connotation for that particular word. We don't necessarily mean it in that strict sense of the word in terms of CCTV surveillance here. We're talking more about the looser sense of the word surveillance, where we're looking at the outside world. We're getting useful information. So if I look at a weather report on TV or in a newspaper, or I read the news or listen to the news on the radio, then I'm using that for what Blumler and Katz would say is the surveillance part of the uses and gratifications theory. Bearing in mind that any of these 4 can happen at any point in the mind of the audience member. It could be at different points in the program, in the media text, different uses and gratifications are occurring, or it could be that all 4 at once. Okay, so there's no, they're not mutually exclusive. They can all happen all at one time. So let's take a moment just to look in more detail as we broaden out a little. Let's take some time to look more broadly at some specific examples and see where we can apply Blumler and Katz's uses and gratifications theory in context, because obviously when it comes up in an exam question, which if you're doing GCSE OCR, it certainly will, and even in the BTEC level 2, it quite often comes up as a 2 or 3 mark question where they ask you to use your understanding of uses and gratifications theory to talk about a particular media product. So I've taken a screenshot of some of the horror films that were released in the UK in 2019. And I've put there the 4 uses and gratifications there on the screen. Now, if we take a moment to think about, okay, why were these horror movies successful? How were they able to find an audience? It's probably mostly for that first use and gratification that's there, the diversion one. I would say, I don't think it's too controversial to say that I would say that most people would watch a horror film for an escape from everyday issues. They're probably not looking at a horror movie to develop a personal relationship or to feel like they have a personal relationship with the people on the screen. I don't think that people would necessarily identify with the people that they see in that media product. They might, but I would say that most of the time it's to do with the content and the diversion element of horror films. Okay, so in that case, or in this case with horror films, Blumler and Katz's uses and gratifications theory begins to explain the popularity of horror films amongst certain audiences, because obviously if we look at different ages and different genders and different geographical locations, then we'll be looking at different gratifications and different uses for different audiences, but more about that in a future lesson. Today we're just going to specifically focus on very, very closely on just the 4 parts that make up uses and gratifications theory, but we will be talking more about audiences and the differences between them in future lessons. So if we change it from horror films to factual news programs, I think we could say that most people don't access news broadcasts as a means of a diversion from everyday issues. if anything, it's more for the surveillance option, the surveillance part of uses and gratifications theory. We actually want to know more about everyday issues, not escape from them. So news media has a very specific use or gratification, to use Blumler and Katz's terminology there. Hopefully that's fairly clear for people. Looking at print media for a moment, if we look at the kind of the celebrity magazines that we see often in shops, they offer a range of different uses and gratifications there. There's an element of diversion there, I would say. I think it's fair to argue that if you're living in inverted commas, a normal life, you might look at the celebrities and the different lives that they lead as a means of escape from your normal existence, shall we say. There might be an element of identifying with the people that we see in there. In an aspirational way. It's like, I wish I was more like this person that I see in this magazine, or how do they manage to live this kind of life? What can I do that I can, so that I might be able to live that similar life? That's about personal identity. And again, there's an element of being slightly nosy, for want of a better word, that we'd like to peer into in a surveillance type way, peer into the lives of these celebrities. So looking at 3 different media products there, we've been able to use uses and gratifications theory to explain what the audience gets out of that media product, beyond just saying, I just like it. Hopefully from this point on, once we know what uses and gratifications theory is, we won't necessarily be saying to ourselves anymore, I watch this kind of TV show, or I play this kind of game just because I like it. We begin to be able to see what we're actually getting out of it from a slightly deeper level, which is effectively what Blumler and Katz set out to do when they came up with this theory, to start looking at the psychological underpinnings as to why audiences gravitate to certain products. So if I can finish, before we go to the tasks, if I can finish with just a really good example of how to write about uses and gratifications theory. A few years back, one of the questions on the OCR paper was to explain the appeal of celebrity magazines using uses and gratifications theory. So a really good way to answer this question would be something like this. Celebrity magazines offer a range of uses and gratifications for the reader, not only advice, but also a sense of identity and possibly companionship and reassurance. So that goes back to the idea of personal relationships. Even though it's not a moving image media, we can still begin to develop a personal relationship, or feel like we're developing a personal relationship by looking at the lives of these celebrities. So carrying on, in the next sentence, the magazines also appear to offer guidance and instruction of how to live a particular lifestyle, as well as entertainment and escapism. The magazines also offer aspiration in relationships, careers, material possessions, and looks. So the only thing that's missing from that particular answer, the only thing that makes that answer not perfect, is it could do with more specific reference to those keywords, to diversion, to personal relationships, to personal identity, and surveillance. So maybe coming up with a way of your own that you can get those 4 terms lodged into long-term memory, because it's going to be those that you need to pull out when you begin to write or talk about uses and gratifications theory, or use it when you're developing your own media products. So with a minute or so left of this time, let me explain what the task is that's going to appear afterwards. So I want you to use uses and gratifications theory to explain the appeals of a range of different media texts to different audiences. So some examples, feel free to change them or use these ones. I don't mind. The most important thing is that you get used to what uses and gratifications theory is, and get used to it by using it in a real situation. So you might look at what use and gratification the elderly get from daytime TV, why action films are particularly popular with young adults, or why mobile games are particularly popular for people in between teenagers and adults, the so-called tweenagers. Feel free to change those examples. You can use yourself if you like. What if I look at my own media? Excuse me. If I look at my own media consumption, how does that apply with uses and gratifications? Or you can pick someone, an audience which is completely different from yourself. Like I say, the important thing is to use this use and gratification theory. So thank you for your time today, and I will see you all next week. Take care.
That was another media lesson from Matt Murphy. It's very strange to be in a situation where you end up thinking a pre-recorded video, but that's where we are. That's the only pre-recorded video we have today. And again, I hope that was of use, and the task is there. And remember, if you are joining us for the first time, all of the streaming schools lessons have an optional task afterwards. Now, parents, if you're watching as well, wherever you are, one thing I'd recommend is go back, watch the video, and just sit and understand the task with your child. The most important thing that you can do with your children during this period, and I've been fortunate enough to teach thousands and thousands of people as a teacher, as a head teacher, as a private tutor, a range of different things, and of course my own three monsters. But the most important thing is that relationship we have with them. Don't make school something that was completely alien over there, and then you're now kind of involved in it. I think that's one of the disconnects people are feeling at the moment. They're not normally super involved with their child's learning, so it feels a little bit more alien. So talk to them about their learning, understand what they think XYZ meant in the video, understand what they think is going on in a task or what's needed from a task. And at this point, it's okay to be wrong together, or it's okay to even do a small part of it together, because remember, if you're a parent at home watching this, you're holding the fort for teachers. Obviously, because of the coronavirus, you're not expected to be the ultimate teacher. Just go through it with them, see what they understand, see what you understand, and do the best that you can with it. Who knew that someone could say so many words in such a short space of time, Nish?
I know.
Yeah, everyone's a bit like, he really needed the captions for that guy. All right, I'll leave it to you to lead out, my dear. Thank you.
All right, cool. So here is the optional task, as Leon mentioned. So it is, Matt did say it, but it is use uses and gratification to explain the appeals of a range of media text to different audiences. So for example, daytime TV for the elderly, action films for young adults, and mobile games for tweens. I haven't used tweens before.
Well, there you go. There you go. Welcome to the modern world. Welcome to the modern world. All right.
You have missed out on anything, please go back and look on Facebook and on YouTube. This video will be on there as well with any resources that you might need. Next, we have PE.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Nish. Really, really appreciate it as ever. And I will see you in a short while.